Hello. So in today lecture, we'll talk about one of the most important topic of human health and disease. We'll progress with the immunity and immune system. So what is immunity? So immunity, if we talk about immunity, so what is immunity? Immunity is the body own system to body's own response to resist any infection or any pathogen, or we can say any disease. So body has its own capacity, own mechanism to resist any infection or to resist any disease. So the system of our body which provide this strength to uphold the infection or the uphold the disease progression, to restrict the growth of the microorganism or basically pathogen, is the immune system. So what is immunity? So immunity is body's own response to fight, or we can say also resist infection or pathogen growth, or we can say also disease. So it is immunity which is responsible for the inhibition of growth of any pathogen and prevention of disease. And the system which has this capacity is the immune system. So the system which has this capacity is immune system. So what is immune system? So we can say the immune system has the capacity to fight against any disease or any pathogen. So the immune system, the system which has the ability to fight against any pathogen or resist their growth. Okay, so this is the immune system. Now let's have a deeper insight on the immune system and the immunity. So basically body provides two type of immunity. Basically body provides two type of immunity. There are two bases of working of the immune system, that is the acquired immune system and the innate immune system, which is also known as the acquired immunity and the innate immunity. So immunity is of two type. So the immunity is of two type. Basically immunity is of two type. It is innate immunity and acquired immunity. Now let's have a look on the innate immunity and acquired immunity collectively. So what is acquired immunity, what is innate immunity, and why this immune system is categorized into different type, that is innate immunity and acquired immunity. So the innate immunity is present from birth. Basically it can be said that it is inherited, it is present from birth, and it is non-specific. It is non-specific. But after birth, during our course of development, we develop the acquired immunity. We will talk later both. So now let's have a look on the innate immunity. So basically, if we talk about innate immunity, so what is innate immunity and what it means? So innate immunity is the kind of immunity which is present from birth. That is, the innate immunity is present from birth. Okay, so innate immunity is present from birth and it is non-specific type. So after birth, the immunity which is present is of innate immunity, but not acquired immunity. But successively, as we grow in our life, we develop another kind of immunity, which is acquired immunity. We'll talk about it later. But for innate immunity is present from birth, and it is of non-specific type. Also, so what it mean by non-specific type? So this kind of immunity is not differentiating the self or non-self, and also it is not differentiating any kind of pathogen, that is if it is bacteria or virus or something else. So the specificity is not here. And the another thing is that the innate immunity doesn't have any memory, or it does not develop any memory. So it is also not forming any memory. For the innate immunity, there are different kind of barriers which help this innate immunity to show their action, right? So for innate immunity, different type of barriers are there, which are cellular barrier, cytokine barrier, physical barrier, and physiological barrier, right? So there are several barriers which help or which provides the innate immunity to the body, and it is physical barrier, physiological barrier, cellular barrier, and cytokine barrier. Okay, so now let's go ahead one by one for the physical barrier, physiological barrier, cellular, and cytokine barrier. So let's take about the physical barrier. So let's take about the physical barrier. What is physical barrier? As we have seen that we have developed the skin outside of our body. Basically, a skin shows multi-layered cells, and that's why it is stratified. So the outer layer of this skin is dead, and the stratified nature helps forming multi-layer of the skin. So this multi-layered skin helps in the formation of a tight barrier, which helps the isolation of our body from the surrounding, so that any pathogenic agent or any microbes or bacteria will not enter inside of the body. In this manner, the skin helps the separation of atmosphere and body, and also helps protection from the bacteria or the any kind of pathogen. So physical barrier, basically it is a skin and mucosa membrane, right? So as we have seen that a skin is of multi-layered nature, the multi-layered nature of a skin, and outside of the skin is dead cells. So multi-layer and dead cell which forms ultimately a separating media for the body from outside so that it can help prevention or attack of any kind of pathogen or any kind of bacteria, virus, etc. That is, a skin doesn't allow entry of any pathogenic bacteria or any pathogens. So we can say that it doesn't allow entry of any kind of pathogens inside body. Next thing is that we have seen our body that there are several openings like mouth for for the digestive system, and the anus of the posterior end of the digestive system or the alimentary canal. Okay, for alimentary canal it is mouth, and opening for urinogenital tract there is opening to excrete urine outside of the body, and also for the respiratory system the nasal opening is also facing outside of the body to the atmosphere. So it is chance that whenever we inhale, so there may be a chance of inhaling bacteria or other pathogens. So to prevent the entry of bacteria or other pathogens, the respiratory system is lining by the mucosa membrane, and that mucosa membrane helps the prevention of the mucosa membrane helps in prevention of for the entry of the bacteria or any pathogen. That is, mucosa restrict those pathogens and doesn't allow the entry. So mucosa membrane may be on the respiratory opening or the digestive or alimentary canal opening or the urinogenital opening. So mucosa is lining at those sides, those openings, and doesn't allow entry of the pathogens in our body. So in this way, physical barrier plays a crucial role in controlling the pathogenic attack for our body. Now, the next thing is that the physiological barrier. So what is physiological barrier? So the term clearly states physiological barrier. So this is also a barrier, but the mechanism of preventing the pathogen is different from the physical barrier. That is, the physical barrier, a skin and mucosa, just doesn't let entry of the pathogens or any harmful or any kind of substance inside our body, or it may be any living or non-living things. That is, it is not differentiating any if it is living or if it is non-living, if it is useful or harmful for our body. So physical barrier once work will not allow entry. But for physiological barrier, it has different mechanism of action than the physical barrier. So for physiological barrier, the term states clearly here physiology. Physiology. So physiology, that it alters the physiology of the pathogens or microbes, or it changes the physiology in such a way that the action of the pathogen or the microbes shall be avoided or inhibited, like several chemical secretion from the body as the saliva, tears, or alteration of pH. So all these helps in the prevention of the growth of pathogen in our body. Like saliva and tears, for saliva and tears, it is See that the saliva and tears have the lysozyme. Lysozymes are the enzyme which disrupt the bacterial cell wall and prevent the bacterial growth. And in this manner, saliva and tears helps in prevention of the bacterial growth because of presence of lysozyme. pH alteration sometimes fonts in localized space where the change in pH can resist the development of the any pathogen or microbes. Also, in case sometime we have fever. So fever is body's own response to increase the body temperature. So body temperature is increased in case of fever. And why? Because of the overload of microorganism or pathogen, body temperature goes high, and since the body temperature rises, and due to rise in body temperature, it is the adaptation so that the microbes or pathogen will not grow at the elevated temperature. So fever or elevated body temperature is also a type of immune response. So it is very important that whenever there is fever, so avoid immediate taking of any medicines or tablets, because maybe it may the fever or the body elevated body temperature, and those particular conditions are to basically prevent the body from any type of infection or any type of pathogens. So it may be a case. So it is advisable to avoid any kind of immediate medications once fever is seen, but if the fever is repeated or for the long time, then medication should be. Okay. So now for after physiological barrier, there are some cellular barriers. So what is cellular barriers? So for cellular barriers, if we talk about the cellular barriers, so there are several cells in our body which have their own role, and the basically the cells are having their role or action in killing or preventing the growth of the microorganism or pathogen in our body, or not only pathogen, any kind of molecules, toxic substance, if these are seen in body which may have the immune response or which may interfere our body action, normal body action. So in that case, there are several cells which are going to have their role and which will reduce the action of either pathogens or the molecules. So these cells are monocytes, neutrophils, macrophages, natural killer or NK cells. So basically, there are several cells. There are several cells like monocyte, neutrophils, macrophages, and natural killer cells, and also maybe of different types. So basically, these cells have their role in boosting the innate immunity. So how these cells are collectively helping the innate immune response? In the sense that the monocyte are the circulating cells, circulating blood cells. Basically, we call it as the leukocyte, and in agranulocyte, lymphocytes. So monocytes are the lymphocytes which are circulating in blood, and once it targets or encounters any kind of pathogens or any kind of infectious molecules, so in that case monocytes matures into macrophages, the cell size increase, targets the pathogen and engulf. So basically macrophage is the mature form of the monocytes. And these neutrophils and macrophages are basically the enlarged cells. So these are their size is very big compared to normal cells, and these neutrophils and macrophages so phagocytosis. Their mechanism of action is phagocytosis. So they phagocytose the pathogens or any foreign molecules. Phagocytosis, that is engulf the foreign molecules and remove the toxicity which is caused due to either foreign molecules or due to the pathogens. So basically it is neutrophils or macrophages which have their role in phagocytosis and preventing the this what it called the pathogens and microbes, and also the harmful chemicals. It may be chemicals, but the natural killer cells have different mechanism of action. So natural killer cells have different mechanism of action than the macrophage and the natural killer cells. So for natural killer cells, basically what it does that whenever any kind of pathogen encounters the body, or whenever it crosses the barrier, physical barrier, whenever it may cross the physiological barrier, so inside body natural killer cells take a surveillance on those circulating pathogens and shows their action. They create a pore. They create a pore, okay, and kill the cells, kill the pathogens. So how this happen? Basically, whenever natural killer cell encounters any pathogen, natural killer cells secretes perforin protein. So perforin protein. So whenever natural killer cells encounter any kind of pathogens or microbes, it secretes perforin protein. This perforin protein create a pore in the membrane of the pathogen, and after creating a pore of the membrane of the pathogen, we know that whenever there is a pore created across the membrane, these membranes are now become permeable for the substance or permeable for the solvent. So whenever there is pore created, the solvent water enters cells inside pathogen, and after entry of water, cell will swell up and pathogen will be lysed. Pathogen will be lysed. Okay, so this is the mechanism of action for the natural killer cells. Pathogen lysis is seen in the case. So this is the natural killer cell, macrophage, neutrophil. Now the next thing is the cytokine barrier. The last thing is the cytokine barrier. So what is cytokine barrier? So for cytokine barrier, we know that there may be a kind of infection, different kind of infection due to bacterial, due to viral, due to fungal, or any kind of infection may be there. So due to viral infection, whenever a cell is infected virally, that is, whenever a cell is infected virally, so viral infected cells. So this is viral infected cells. So viral infected cells secrete some chemicals known as interferon. So viral infected cells secrete a chemical known as interferon. So it is chemical interferon, and this interferon basically what it does, so this interferon now moves to the nearby cells of the infected cells. So it will move to the nearby cells of the infected cells. Okay. So this interferon will now move to the nearby infected cells and aware them from that this kind of infection is there, the viral infection is there. Now prepare yourself for that virus and avoid their growth. So this is the mechanism of cytokine barrier, that the interferon chemical is secreted from virally infected cells. Viral infection, the chemical is secreted from virally infected cells, and this interferon now aware the nearby cells for that viral infections. In the response of this interferon, the nearby cells start synthesizing nearby cells start synthesizing the translation inhibitory protein. So whenever in the nearby cells, whenever if the virus is targeting the nearby cells, so that the translation inhibitory protein, the translational inhibitory protein, what it does in nearby cells, that it is not allowing the virus for their further translation, and due to absence of translation, the virus could not perform or make the protein for its survival, for its machinery to complete the virus structure. And that's why in the same in this manner the viral infection is inhibited. So this is the overall mechanism for the innate immune system that we have gone so far about the physical barrier, the physiological barrier, the cellular barrier, and the cytokine barrier. So this is the basic mechanism of action for the viral, for the innate immune response or for innate immunity.